Wow. I have to say, the only other animated movies that made me feel like this were Studio Ghibli's. So The Wild Robot is this new animated film by Dreamworks. It basically tells the story about this robot who distinguishes itself as Roz. And when Roz wakes up in this wilderness, basically, although eventually misunderstanding it at first, Roz starts to, learn and understand it about how everything works. And then a little bit later in the movie, Roz adopts this baby goose and then decides to raise it as its son. So, it's this simple, technology meets wildlife story. And of course, technology trying to understand, wildlife, not just, logically, but emotionally as well. A lot of my friends who saw this movie compared it to, Disney's Wall-E, saying that it was kind of like, it borrowed a lot of things from that movie, about a robot trying to understand new things. But honestly, Wall-E wasn't the first movie that came to my mind when I saw it. The first movie that came to my mind was Castle in the Sky, mainly because there was a robot in that movie that looks just like Roz. Like I said before, the only movies that made me feel like the way this movie made me felt are Studio Ghibli films. And honestly, this movie almost was exactly like a Studio Ghibli film. I mean, the love for nature, the protecting of it, the show of kind of protecting a place from violence, even the life lessons that you see in this movie kind of remind me of a Studio Ghibli film. Honestly, if Hayao Miyazaki made a 3D animated film, this would be it. I will admit there was a lot of dark humor in this movie. They made jokes about death, which is kind of odd for me, even though I said this movie is about kind of like a Studio Ghibli film, and they kind of have a dark tone here and there in some of their movies. But this is an American film, and they kind of try to refrain from that a good bit of the time with their animated movies now. But so it surprised to me to kind of hear those jokes in this movie. I will admit they got some laughs out of me because, I wasn't expecting them. But, after a little while, they were, just kind of old. But, I was still, kind of like, heh, even when I was hearing the jokes. Also, the cast was pretty incredible, too. It was actually killing me because a lot of these voices sounded so familiar, and when I got done watching this movie, I was like, oh my god, I gotta go look up this cast here, because I was like, it was killing me because these voices sounded so familiar, especially the one who voiced Fink. I was like, the whole movie when I heard this voice, I was like, oh my god, who is that? Then basically it started digging, it was killing me. I was like, who is that? Later only found out that it was Pedro Pascal, and it kind of shocked me there for a second that I did not even know that was even his voice. This movie is one of those movies where a kid watches it and, they're going to enjoy it because it has all the things that a kid likes, like funny characters, pretty colors, and all the stuff that kids will see. But when adults watch it, they're going to be grasping a lot of things that the kids don't see or recognize until they probably get, a little older. Specifically the life lessons that I'm talking about here that the adults will grasp more than kids will. And there's life lessons about, family, which family you think is better, the family that you're born into or the family that you choose. But also there's life lessons about parenting, raising your son or daughter, but basically, you have to put in that work in raising them. But then comes the biggest and hardest part of being a parent, and that is, of course, letting them go so that they can find their own place in life itself. That was probably the biggest life lessons I picked up in this film, and that was about learning about what life is about forging your path. Because when Roz meets Bright Bill is just a runt. He's the smallest Canadian geese in his flock, but he puts in the work because he wants to find out what his purpose in life is. And of course, that is a big life lesson there, that if you want something, of course, in life, It's not just going to be handed to you. You have to work for it. And definitely Bright Bill puts in the work here in this movie as he's growing. This is a movie that's like layered very well. Let me just say it like that. It's layered very well because there's so many messages in this movie. I mean, kids probably won't grasp the messages, so there's just going to be the same thing that, most kids would react when they see a good animated movie. But when it comes to adults who watch this film, depending on the person, they'll all grasp a different message. I mean, that's what makes movies like this so good. It's not a movie that just has one message. It has multiple messages. And it doesn't come across cheesy or anything like that. And it actually feels a lot more real. Not just like, this is a Hollywood film about something spectacular. It feels like you can connect so deeply with these characters, and that's what makes it give you the feels, because it gives off a feel of realism. Animation was good as well. Like I said, had some stylistic touches, great colors, and loved how they captured the vibe of nature. Well, let me just say, I loved how AI captured the vibe of nature, because the animation definitely looks like it was done by AI. I mean, not trying to be hurtful there. But, I mean, even though knowing that and knowing that it was done by AI, it was just good that it wasn't, an AI written script. Because I've seen plenty of movies that were done with like that. And believe me, this is not one of those movies that looks good, but is bad. I've seen a lot of those. Then, of course, we have the big action scene in the last act, which was pretty incredible as well. I believe that was shown a little bit in the trailer. But even knowing that was coming, I liked how, that even though we knew there was going to be action, that's not what we were there to see. I like how that last act didn't overshadow all the other important life lessons that this movie brought to the table. So, I mean, that was good as well, because, I mean, I liked how the movie was before the action. Not saying I didn't like the action scenes. It was great. I just like how, they treated it equally, that this action scene was just as important as all the other life lessons we saw in the beginning. The Wild Robot is only on one path in my eyes, and that's the path to winning Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. Without a doubt, this movie gets an A+. Best animated movie of 2024 in my eyes. Alright, well that just about wraps up this review. If you guys have seen The Wild Robot, please comment here down below what your thoughts were on it. Also, if you like my other movies, you can check out here more on my channel. And always remember to stay epic.